kid in your mother's milk. Not your child, but the goat kid.
Right. Can I ask you the question again? Can you answer my question?
Oh, in Leviticus?
No. I mean, but where does it say? I mean, you're telling me what you understand in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
But see, Abraham also, when the guests came, he killed a calf or something, and he served the milk. So that all transpired over that meal, somewhere in the ensuing hour or 6. Right? Correct?
Right. I mean, although according to that interpretation that they created, you can drink the milk and then eat the meat. You cannot do the other way around.
Right, because it's half an hour afterward. Right.
You know, some that say you wash your mouth, some but the question here is, where does it say? Nowhere it says that. Nowhere it says not mix or milk and meat. What happens there is that there was a boudin that was prepared for the ancient gods, that it was done with the freshest ingredients. You know, it's the freshest ingredient. You have a baby cow that's still milking, and you use the milk of the mother to cook the animal, and so you can offer to the gods. I mean, it will be the best, because you never, in ancient times, would kill an animal that will provide you more milk, because you have an animal that will give you protein for the rest of the year, and you do it for that one time. You just will do it if it was a special occasion. Special occasion is either if you're sacrificing to a god, or if the god is coming to visit you. You understand? No, because the god visiting you can be a cousin of the emperor, is a god too, and he comes to visit you. You have to give out the best for him. Mm-hmm. And that's the origin where this came from. Judaism had to learn to survive for a lot of persecution. Before now we'll go back, now we're understanding, let me go to the end of the story of kosher, then I'm going to tell you the story of the Jews, so you understand how everything comes together in Jewish history and where we are now. So what happened? At that time they made laws forbidding mix and milk and meat, and because they did for so many generations, it became so ingrained, that's how Jews did. Okay. Then in the 1600s in Holland, you know what they created in Holland in the 1600s? Not the coffee shop, something even more famous than the coffee shops there.
Chocolate?
Tulip bulb mania.
That
was about then.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That's true, there were tulips there. Tulips actually has a lot to do in Holland with the Jewish immigration, actually.
Did you ever read about the tulip bulb mania? No, okay, go ahead. No. You would love that one. Okay, I'll make sure you do it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what happens is this. In the 1600s, they created a microscope there. So rabbis start putting like plants and vegetables and fruits in the microscope and see all those little animals walking in the microscope and in the water, and they realize that none of the thing that they've been eating was kosher. So they make laws saying the water was not kosher, and lettuce are not kosher, and tomatoes are not kosher. No, tomatoes didn't exist at that time in the New World, but whatever they could see, they will find microscopes and they will say, oh, those animals do not qualify to be kosher, so should not eat. So it took Jews die to malnourishment in the streets of Amsterdam for them to change the law. And that's what fundamentalism religion becomes. Then you go further, and you go to the Industrial Revolution. They create because everybody start buying food that is canned and everything. They start creating a system where Jews could buy that too. But that became a huge industry. That became a multi-billion-dollar industry, and unfortunately today, many areas is as corrupt as you can imagine. I mean, there is this guy that is responsible for all the kosher meat for Chabad. He's like out of Pottstown, and they accuse that in his factory at night they have prostitution, child labor, and they process meth in the same line that they were using to process the kosher meat. They clean up the place at night and make methamphetamines. And it's interesting because when you go to chat rooms, you see people asking, like people from Harvard, how could you eat the food that comes from there? How do you cook kosher? And they say, no, that has nothing to do with kosher. Kosher is the way you kill the cow. And you know what? If God has access to the internet, he probably is laughing like there's no tomorrow out of these stupid people. Because in reality, today what you call kosher to killing an animal is the way you kill the animal. If you read the Torah, there's probably 10 passages telling you how you should treat the animals, how they should be raised, rather than the way they should be killed. Because all the way until a couple hundred years after the Torah was given, you know how animals were killed in a slaughter in a kosher way? By being stoned. Then they decided to, in the beginning they were stoned. Then they decided to cut the jugular. When they start cutting the jugular, they say, oh, that's not the kosher way. But the truth is that a kosher animal should be an animal that had a great life and one very bad day. And I really not sure that you know, you leaving an animal standing and bleeding to death there is the most humane way to kill it. I mean, I'm you know, it's, I mean, I don't know what's the answer, but I know that's not an answer that came from God. And this is the entire point, because you know, although the Torah doesn't say that you should not eat milk and meat or kill in that way, the Torah tells you something very specifically you should not add or remove. And that is written there for sure. And I think that when the things are added, is just like giving you more different interpretations. Maybe they were meant to give you different choices, but not a path. You understand?